Get your stuff together. You don't want to be 30 years old and look back and have no career for yourself. I'm sorry for you. This sucks, but get it together. And from that point, I've never looked back. Right now, I think our on-site operators are too overwhelmed and pulled in too many different directions to be able to spend 30 minutes to an hour in a platform that they just don't have time to sit there in. Success is when we start going the top down and educating more of the top C-level folks. Hey, did you know that you had XYZ assets on Gatewise? Here's why they're using it. Are you open to conversation for your broader portfolio to be that preferred provider for your access control needs? Decision makers are being bombarded with Proptech companies that do all these amazing, crazy things when operations budgets are lean right now. They don't have the budget to spend on all these providers. They need to see real value. Renters nowadays think that these landlords are just greedy and jacking up rents because they want to, but no, costs are a real thing. Everything's getting expensive for these operators.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Multifamily Chronicles. I'm your host, Adrian Anila. Our special guest today is Joseph Knaack. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Thank you, Adrian. Excited to be here and talk about all things multifamily.
Joseph, I want to ask you to share with us, with me and the audience, your journey in multifamily. How did it started? Where? How long ago? And just kind of walk us through up to the current date.
Awesome. Yeah, would love to. Thanks, Adrian. So, journey in multifamily started in 2017 at the end of a career in the legal/insurance field. I wanted to be an attorney for a while, became a paralegal, and realized, hey, wasn't for me, and wanted to get into something that was more service and sales oriented. So I pivoted into multifamily, specifically a leasing agent position at a stabilized asset in Irvine, and did that for a few months before I got connected with a property manager opening up a lease up out in Orange County, where from that same asset I initially started my career at. Got plucked and moved over to a lease up at Wood Partners starting in 2018. And then from that point on, I did 3 successful lease ups, one in Orange County with Wood Partners, another one in Oakland, California with Wood Partners. And then the last one I did was with Atlas Oakland with Greystar and Carmel Partners, and ended my on-site career in 2022. When that lease up was just about finalized, and then transitioned over to the supplier/vendor side, where I landed a role as a customer success manager for Flamingo, which was a resident engagement platform, Proptech company in the multifamily space. And after about 18 months there, I went to selling smart home technology. And after that wasn't the right fit, I landed at Gatewise, which has been a blessing. I'm the director of sales for Gatewise here, helping build out the West Coast for them and selling a simple access control solution that works off cellular signals. So not a big infrastructure required and super simple to get installed.
So Joseph, I want to stay with your current position. Tell us a little bit about what you do for Gatewise. What are your job duties? And tell us about the company, like what type of products and or services that they're offering to the multifamily industry.
So I specifically am the director of sales for the West Coast, oversee about 14 states from New Mexico west. And, I'm here opening up the markets on the West Coast and creating that brand presence for Gatewise, penetrating new West Coast markets. And Gatewise started in 2017, based in Houston. Amit and John Riley have been there since the beginning, and it's a cellular-based access control solution. It's not anything too technical. It's a simple box, and where that wires into an existing gate, an existing fob reader, an amenity door, building door. And where we shine is where an asset or a community has a broken system that they can't get fixed. It's on unrepairable phone lines that are dated. Our system is that hero that saves the day and gets rid of those headaches from clickers, call boxes, and fobs. We install a module onto the gate or door, and residents get in and out of the access points from a button on their phone or using voice services or voice control through the app or through Hey Google or Siri.
If I'm understanding this correctly, your solution is geared towards existing construction and possibly like older properties, correct?
Correct. Yep. Older assets, retrofits for class B, C, and D assets that don't have the huge capex budget for a nice, fancy, robust system, but really want to future proof their asset by creating a tech forward access control solution and create some convenience and control over who they allow in their community and when they could access and see who's getting in and out.
So, Joseph, I want to go back to your the beginning of your journey in multifamily, and I want to ask you, why did you choose to be in multifamily? Was it that a choice when you were trying to transition from the legal business into something else? Like, how did it happen? Was it by default, by design? Like, you really heard about multifamily and you just want to join an amazing industry? How was it?
Great question. So, growing up, I had this amazing mentor. His name's Chris Harrington, and he met me when he was in his property management career. And throughout his career, I was his little maintenance buddy, going in and helping him with turns, cleaning the community, like hosing down the pool, all that stuff. So it started out when I was like a really early teenager, but it wasn't until post high school when that same mentor said, "Hey, I think you would be really good at leasing. You're very good with people, you like sales, and you're trying to get into a new industry." So I listened to him, took the chance, became a leasing agent, and obviously it was a step back going from a paralegal, having my own office, working in a law firm, really nice, prestigious career that I felt I had, to go to a leasing agent, but took the chance and now I'm here. I couldn't be happier.
Second question regarding your journey in multifamily is, what made you switch from the operator side to the service provider side?
Good question. And I'm sure this will resonate for a lot of my on site operators that are out there. You know, when you're at the on site level, your career trajectory is very predictable. You know, you go from leasing agent, maybe a leasing manager to assistant manager to community, community to regional. And I felt that my next role predictably would have been an assistant property manager. And that just wasn't me. That reminded me of being a paralegal again, sitting behind a desk all day, being behind a screen, not interacting with people. So I had an opportunity that I saw to jump over to the vendor side and capitalized on it, put in the effort, and made it happen. And now the biggest appreciation I have of coming over to the vendor side is the ability to see the industry on a macro level rather than such a micro level at your community that you're working at, maybe even living at if you're an operator that gets a housing discount. But now I could see and talk to colleagues like you across the nation and really understand what's going on and trends and challenges and what tech companies are doing well and what tech companies aren't. Because when you see things at a national level, there's so much more resources available than being so pinpoint and focus at the community level.
I'm thinking right now, I get that you like the service provider side better from what you just said. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
You enjoy more. What are some things that you thought you knew about the service provider side when you worked as an operator at the site level that now you know they weren't so?
It's a lot harder to get your technology to become adopted at the on-site level when there's not buy-in from the top down. I had no idea that that was an even challenge because as a leasing manager, I would just get a platform and that was about it. That was like, hey, here's your platform that you're going to use for this. Here's your login credentials. But coming to the vendor side now, it's a huge challenge driving adoption when you have no buy-in from the top, no buy-in from the on-site team, and my criteria and threshold now understanding technologies is like how much of an SOP disrupting technology is that? So does it require changes in all of your workflows or is it just something that could be done at the on-site level? And those are some criteria that I use when I'm looking at prop tech companies, like how much lift does it take for an on-site operator to actually achieve what this technology says it can do. Because right now, I think our on-site operators are too overwhelmed and pulled in too many different directions to be able to spend 30 minutes to an hour in a platform that they just don't have time to sit there in. So the way I look at prop tech companies now, and if they're thriving, is how much lift does the on-site operator need to operate that platform, and is it frictionless? Is it a frictionless onboarding?
Next question is, you mentioned, without getting that buy-in from the very top, things are incredibly slow to move. So how do you overcome those challenges, those obstacles? What are some ways in which you made your products more well known to the operators, and what are some things that help you, like getting in front of decision makers? I think this is a common challenge for everyone that works on a service provider side, and it'll be interesting to get your take on that, so maybe others could get inspired and follow the same path.
One of the tactics, I guess, that works really well with Gatewise is we're such a low cost solution that we don't need sign off from the decision maker, the CFO, to spend $1,000 to install a module, right? So when we get that buy-in from the on-site team and they can make a move and feel empowered to improve their access system, then when we see success is when we start going the top down and educating more of the top C-level folks. Hey, did you know that you had XYZ assets on Gatewise? Here's why they're using it. Are you open to a conversation for your broader portfolio to be that preferred provider for your access control needs? And that's been the tactic with Gatewise, because one, the product is simple and it actually works. And two, it's not expensive. So it's a no-brainer when on-site operators and decision makers see it in action.
I love this. You use the lowest barrier of entry. You make your entry, you make a couple of cases at a site level, and then you reach out to the top and tell executives, hey, did you know that we work for you and this is what we do, and by the way, we would love to do more.
Exactly. It's because right now, I think decision makers are being bombarded with prop tech companies that do all these amazing, crazy things when operations budgets are lean right now. They don't have the budget to spend on all these providers. They need to see real value on what they're actually spending on. And if they don't get value, they're getting cut. So right now, it's in a very, Gatewise is a must have product in a sea of nice to haves.
Very interesting point out there. I think you're right. There's a struggle on an operator side to keep up with the incredible volume of requests for their time, I will say. I'm not even going into like, let me sell you some products or services. Like, just everybody fights over their time. And it gets harder and harder to, divide up and, still be efficient, run a business, make decisions. Now, what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing with your clients? What are the biggest challenges that they're facing that you're aware of? What makes them lose sleep at night in this current environment, economical environment?
Yeah, it changes depending on what market I'm talking to, but biggest, broadest challenge is occupancy and costs. A lot of renters nowadays think that these landlords are just greedy and jacking up rents because they want to, but no, costs are a real thing. Everything's getting expensive for these operators, and it's harder for these regular resident or traditional residents to afford these rents. So that is the biggest challenge. And when you don't have occupancy, you don't have revenue, you don't have money or much budget to fix and improve the things that need help. So that's the biggest challenge we're having. And specifically I'm seeing, but specifically in Arizona right now, it's going to be crazy. Right now, there's about 10,000 units coming online within the next 9 months, and occupancy and rents are trending downward in the market. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens out here. But this is common across multiple markets throughout the nation right now.
So there's an overbuild in certain markets. That's very interesting that you're saying that. I think one of the the top concerns for our industry and for society in general. It's rent affordability. And there's conversations at the highest level about how do we make housing more affordable. I think you just described the solution. Whether that, even though that still is a pain point for operators at this point, right? Because it's hard to get the rents increases that they were hoping for and keep the occupancy up. It comes back to supply and demand, which is like the number one rule for a free market society. You bring in more supply, that's gonna bring the cost down, for something. So how do we make housing more affordable? Is not like by pumping money or whatever. Get out of the way, reduce regulation, allow builders to build more. They will build more and there'll be more supplies. That's gonna drive the price down. Not some government regulation that says you could only increase your rents by 2% a year when inflation is 15-20%, the real inflation a year. What type
Mm-hmm.
of incentive do you give that owner when he actually loses money year by year? The only way that they could make money is like by appreciation, but like it's a very tough proposition when you ask someone to buy an asset, to take care of it, to take care of residents for 5-7 years, and hoping that maybe 7 years later they could turn a profit after they took losses every single year. What are your thoughts on this?
It's tough right now, and you're spot on. One of the biggest states that's having this issue now, and it's up for the on the ballot this year, is California. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Justice for Renters Act out in California this year, but it's a proposition in a bill that will remove the Costa-Hawkins protections for owners and operators in California and completely eliminate the ability to bring rents up to market when a past resident moves out. So getting back to what you were saying, all the red tape, the legislature, all the rules and regulations, like it's making it extremely hard for people in California to even want to do business. So in a state that's already overpopulated, how are you going to accommodate the housing crisis when you have a bill that removes the Costa-Hawkins protections? And that's real going on now. And that affects us in 3, 5, 10 years in our industry. So I'd encourage everybody who's listening to this in California who hasn't read up on any of the Costa or the Justice for Renters Act, do your research, and that bill will affect the California real estate and multifamily industry for decades to come.
Transferable skill, right? I think that a lot of individuals, professionals that are on the operator side are entertaining the idea of switching sides and maybe join the bright side, join the bright side, the supplier side, but they're afraid to make the step. First of all, what make you like switch? Second of all, how did your skills as a salesperson, as a leasing agent, transfer to the supplier side when you became a sales professional for the supplier side?
Yeah, yeah, great questions, and I'll answer the first one. I got burnt out of being an operator. I had the luxury of going from lease ups to lease ups, and if you do lease ups, sometimes you're lucky enough to live at the community that you're leasing. And for my entire on-site operator career, I never realized that I was spending so much time at one building for work and personally that it all kind of came up, and I was just burnt out. So I needed to get out, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to find something easy to transition to, but that was okay. I had already done a pivot before from the legal industry to the multifamily industry, so that didn't really scare me. What I did was super strategic, and I went to a vendor who was servicing Atlas, the community that I was at. So I knew the product, I was a customer, and I knew how to speak to the people that were buying the product. So for me, it was a strategic decision. Where could I fit the best rather than just going in blind? And from there, popping in there, it was hard. Like customer success, I don't know if y'all have heard of it. It's a fairly new role for a lot of these tech companies, and it's a combination of support, sales, onboarding, adoption, implementation, a whole bunch of things. And that's where I got, to see under the hood of how a tech company really works. And I committed for about a year and a half. And I want to say here that the people at the on-site level, your experience is extremely valuable, like extremely valuable. There's so many companies on this side of the industry that think they know what they're talking about, but really have no idea what it is to be an on-site operator. So if there's a way and an opportunity that you find to be able to share your unique experience online and improve a supplier's brand or company by joining that and really helping them understand and tailor their messaging and their product, do it. Take that opportunity if you can, but they're not all out there. You got to go work for it. You have to find it. You can't just have it come find you, really.
Joseph, what do you think about the Proptech technology adoption rates for management companies? You've been doing this for a few years right now. You've been around many places, seen a lot. What are your thoughts? Do you think that management companies are observing technology at a acceptable rate? Are they ahead of what it should be, or they're kind of behind times and
Mhm.
they're slower than they should in adopting technology?
I would say a majority of management teams are maybe a little bit behind. There's a few that have kind of leaned into it and embraced the change when COVID happened. And I'm speaking about that from particularly like a resident slash prospect experience angle. So as I tour communities, I could tell a difference from companies that are on a centralized model versus companies that are not on a centralized model. And what that means is just like, how does the team respond to emails? How does the team answer phone calls? Are they available when they answer phone calls? And do they have the systems and solutions there to help free up time in a fast paced world where residents want to be able to walk into a community and get their questions addressed. They don't want to be walking into a community, waiting 5 minutes while someone's trying to frantically put something together, like a file together. So the companies that have had the teams or the embraced change and property tech and prop tech and evolved with the times are leaps and bounds ahead of the other management companies that haven't really embraced change and have been slow to adopt these new technologies.
Joseph, I go back to when we met for the first time. This was only a year ago, 2024, at
It was, I think
NA.
it was in Georgia.
Yeah, NA in Atlanta. So it feels like I know you for a long time, like for many many years, but it's only been a little bit over a year. So, what drives you passionate about being part of NAA, about going to conferences, about taking initiatives, driving the industry forward? What are the things that are driving you to be a participant, to be actually a leader, to drive those?
Where it starts is like as a young child, I always felt like I was going to have an impact on the world. I just didn't know where that was going to be and what that place was going to look like. And I think now that I've held on to that belief and found an industry that I'm passionate about is what drives me to join these committees, get in front of a lot of people, seek mentorship, and really try and have an impact not only on this industry but ultimately the world, where people will be, hey, that Joseph guy, he was a great guy to be around. I loved his energy. He put a smile on my face. He made me feel great. And that's just the ultimate driving force for me, is just I want to have an impact.
You mentioned mentorship. How important is and has been mentorship in your career? And
Mm.
what are some great things that you could share with others that might consider mentorship valuable for themselves on a personal and professional level?
Mentorship means a lot to me, specifically when I came to the supplier side, is when mentorship in multifamily really blew up for me. I had no idea who to connect to, what the side of this industry was. I was just in it. So when Tara created her mentorship group, I immediately hopped into that and found a few mentors Chris, your co-host, being one of them, Joe, my colleague, being one of them. Through that group, I've just been able to connect with people, and surprisingly, everyone is more willing to help than people may think. So it's never in that group, there's this feeling of camaraderie, like we're here to help each other. So there's never this, you're bugging me, you're taking time away from me, like this is too much, I don't have the bandwidth. It's a supportive network in there. And mentorship has always been something that's been important to me growing up. Like I said, my initial mentor when I got into the industry at about 12, he was the father figure that I always needed but never had because I had a very untraditional upbringing. So from an early age, I've always been able to find people that I look up to, find the courage to ask questions and not be afraid to ask for help, and just continue that along my career because there's something valuable in always learning and always understanding you don't know everything. There's people that can teach you something in every single seat, whether you're a leasing agent, CEO, CFO, investor. We can learn something from everyone. So I'm always ears open, trying to learn and see how I could help and pay it forward as well.
Joseph, I know that you're passionate about volunteering and doing nonprofit work. Could you share with us a few things that you're a part of? I know that this is like part of who you are, and
Mhm.
you spend a lot of time on nonprofit work. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. Awesome opportunity. So I'm on the Business Advisory Council for Orangewood Foundation, which is a nonprofit that helps former foster youth with housing, employment, life skills, and education. And as a young child, I was in the system and adopted by my grandparents. And after high school, I was lost and I had no idea where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And I didn't have that safety net to go off to school and just get a degree and whatnot. But this nonprofit, Orangewood Foundation, helped me get my paralegal certificate, become a paralegal, work in a law firm. And since then, I've had a passion for giving back and paying it forward to the youth after me that, are experiencing similar things where non-traditional upbringing, no male or mother figure in the home. And, there's a lot of unknown emotions that go through a teenager's mind when they're at that age and in those circumstances. So my passion is to just pay it forward and be a support to Orangewood Foundation, who helped me get out of my way and become a functioning and independent member of society. And how I do that is educating people about the nonprofit that we had a booth at, or a small little booth at NAA in a Gatewise Gives form that about 100 people came and signed a little note to the youth of the future. So for me, it's a nonprofit that gives back to youth that don't have that traditional upbringing. That's just really close to my heart and is part of that impact that I'm able to have in the world, for future generations.
If someone is interested in joining you in these efforts, where can they sign up? Any website that you want to share, or like any resource? How could they get involved?
Yeah, the nonprofit is going to be orangewoodfoundation.org. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn and DM me or email me, joseph@gatewise.com. But yeah, always open to getting more people involved and introduced to the organization. One of the big programs that they have that I'm really passionate in trying to spearhead some initiatives in is they have a Lion Workforce Academy, which is a 12-month structured program that combines foster youth with a youth administrator to a local company in Orange County looking to fill entry-level roles in hopes that they pair this foster youth and company to fill a role for the company and gain stable, adequate employment for the youth and ensure that they have the necessary essentials to get there, such as professional clothes, they have transportation, food, help them with rent. So there's a big need in our industry to fill a gap specifically in the maintenance tech roles. There's not as many people coming into the roles as we need as there are leaving. So, a whole big vision I have is combining multifamily industry with the Lion Workforce Academy of Orangewood Foundation in hopes that it could, one, introduce companies that need to fill roles, two, introduce foster youth to stable employment that could also turn into an amazing career, because a lot of us in this industry listening to this podcast, we fell into multifamily and decided to stay because we enjoy it. There's a career here. So the ultimate goal in being part of this nonprofit is to combine multifamily with Orangewood in hopes of like funnel new careers and people into the industry.
You mentioned LinkedIn earlier. How important is networking for you?
It's super important now, and I will be honest, at first it was not I was not into it at all. A couple of years ago, I was definitely one of those lurkers, not those content creators. So, but about a year ago there was this click that LinkedIn is a tool to help get your name out there rather than a personal tool to help like get you a new job. So what I realized is like I look at it as a marketing tool, really. Like get in front of as many people as I can, show them who I am. So when I run into them at a trade show, when I send them an email, when I send them a video message on LinkedIn, they know who I am. I'm not just some random person. Like, and through LinkedIn, I've been able to connect with some amazing people at trade shows that conversations just click. They start like that. There's none of this small talk, breaking down the barrier to then have that conversation. So, one of the personal things that I had to overcome with LinkedIn is I had to be comfortable with who I am and what I'm sharing with the world. And for me, I struggled with that. For some reason, there was just a block for me. But in the past about year, I've had an unlock where like I love who I am. I'm true to who I am. On LinkedIn is who you see in real life. I have no issues posting anything now. So, whoever's out there still trying to find their voice and figure out what to post on LinkedIn, just make sure it feels true to yourself, because if it doesn't feel true to yourself, it's unsustainable.
So, stay true to yourself. What made you switch from being a lurker to becoming a content creator and putting yourself out there?
So funny. So there's one particular experience that I could think about when my buddy Josh Patino posted about a accountability buddy thing he did with Mike Wolber a couple years ago, and I thought that was so cool. And I DM'd Mike Wolber. It was like, "Hey, can I join?" And it got nowhere. It literally got nowhere. And then I realized this guy doesn't even know who I am. I don't even post, like how's he going to respond to me when like I have nothing there? So that was like a light bulb moment for me. Like, hey, LinkedIn is that way to get in front of people. That's to break down that soft barrier to make things a little bit smoother when you get in person.
Do you have an amazing story that came out of you not just being on LinkedIn, like having an account, but actually posting or being active or interacting with with others on LinkedIn? Are you thinking of a remarkable thing that happened to you because of that?
I mean, one could argue this right here today. This probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for LinkedIn and, posting and getting in front of each other online. But three big mentors of mine have all come from connecting on LinkedIn and then creating an in-person relationship from that. So one of them's you, Adrian. The other one's Chris Marino, and the other one is Joe Summers. So those are three big successes that I love that they're my mentors now, and it really just came from organic connection on LinkedIn. And those are just a few. I talk to so many people on LinkedIn, and not to like brag, but like I look up to a lot of people on that platform, and there's a lot of people I would consider a mentor that maybe they don't know me yet, but I still look up to them and listen to what they say on podcasts and what they have to share because it's valuable to me.
You're very kind, and thank you for mentioning my name. I'm honored to make your mentors list. So thank you for that. Now, going back to the beginning of your career, and you mentioned that you're involved with younger with the younger generation and try to, maybe attract them towards a career in multifamily. What are some pieces of advice that you have for the younger generation that might just start right now in Proptech or on operator side in multifamily?
Yeah, right now is a interesting time for us. So I would say find a group of people that you really believe in and they have your best interest, and stick with them and grind it out, because right now it's hard on everyone. It's not going to be easy, whether you're on the supplier side, the operator side, the asset management side. Like, it's hard across the board. So what insight I would have or would recommend is find a couple solid team members or group team people that you could see yourself working and growing with, because right now it's just hard. It's hard everywhere.
I think in society we don't talk enough about failure. And if we were to check, social media feeds every person feeds everybody successful. Real life, it's kind of the opposite, right? We get up now, we get up. It's a
Mhm.
struggle of back and forth, ups and downs. What's a situation that you could think of yourself that you had like a significant failure, and how you overcame that particular situation to turn it into a success story?
So I would guess that when I was like, this was before my property management career, but shortly out of high school, like I said, I came from like a untraditional home, and I was struggling. So at one point, I lost my job. My girlfriend had broken up with me, and my mom had passed away at the time. So all of that happened in like a 2 week time frame, where I thought, man, what the heck? This is rock bottom. This sucks. But I could have gone one or two ways. I could have gone the way of, wham, 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 this is sad. Like, why me? Or buckle up and do what I need to do in order to create a future for myself. Because that same mentor that got me into property management when I was in my early, like, teenage years, he told me, Joseph, get your stuff together. You don't want to be 30 years old and look back and have no career for yourself. I'm sorry for you. This sucks, but get it together. And from that point, I've never looked back. I've always been tenacious about my future. And I look back at that as my rock bottom and my motivation to never get back to that again. So I'm always just trying to be 1% better than I was the day before.
I hope you have your crystal ball close to you, because the next question is about the future. How do you see the future of the multifamily industry? 2025, and not just 2025, but 5-10 years from now.
I think that the operators that embraced technology a couple of years ago and have adopted with the change are going to be leaps and bounds ahead of their competition when it comes to operational efficiency as well as resident experience. But I also think there's going to be, on the prop tech side, there's going to be new innovations constantly, but we're also going to see some of the companies that we thought were doing well maybe dwindle, because in the prop tech side, there's constantly new innovation and there's constantly companies going out of business. It's always changing. So what I would hope to see is more efficient operations, efficient and better resident experiences throughout the whole industry. And how do we do that? As suppliers, we come in and solve a problem that the our partners actually have and make sure we fit into their box, getting to the future rather than having a partner fit in our box of the future of our product.
Joseph, amazing conversation today. We're approaching the end of our conversation now, and I'd like to give the opportunity to share some thoughts with the audience that you didn't have the opportunity to, or maybe answer a question you wish I would have asked during the conversation.
Got it. Thank you, Adrian. One of the things that I would like to share is, when I transitioned over to the vendor side, I struggled with thinking I brought value to the supplier side because I was an on-site operator for so many years. You get so in your zone, in your groove, that you are just thinking about the property, that you don't really understand the true value that you bring to the broader industry. So anyone out there who's looking to make the jump from operator to supplier, or even vice versa, you've got experience that matters. And at any org that can see that, capitalize and stick with it, because it's going to be a wild ride when you have a good team that believes in you and wants nothing but your success.
Joseph, for those watching this episode, how can they get in touch with you if they want to network, if they want to get to know you?
Yes, sir. LinkedIn is always a great spot. Joseph Knaack, Knaack. Email is joseph@gatewise.com. And I'll even drop my phone number if y'all want to text me, 714-277-2586.
Always a pleasure chatting with you, my friend. Thank you for
Yes, sir.
taking an hour out of your time today to be with us, to share thoughts and valuable insights too. And I hope to do another episode down the road with you when you become the CEO of Gatewise or another company.
We'll see. Sky's the limit. And I appreciate the time, Adrian. Always a pleasure. And can't wait to see you at Optech.
Yeah, definitely see you on Optech, everybody. I will be, as well as Joseph, right, at Optech. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meet some of you out there, all of you that actually are ended up going. So thank you again for watching us today, for coming back for more content. We hope to see you back on the next episode. I'm Adrian Anila, your host, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.